Hello and welcome to Unit 2. Now that you've gotten your first speech under your belt, it's time to start thinking about your second speech, your informative speech. I have a separate lecture that you should watch reviewing the informative speech, what it is, and what the requirements are. For your introduction speech, you shared a personal story, which did not need research, but for the next few speeches, you are going to be required to do some sort of research. So why is research important? Because it makes you a more credible speaker. An informative speech is to inform. You cannot inform someone on a subject matter unless you become an expert in that topic. And how do you do that? Through research. Even if you have personal experience in a matter, you still need to provide other evidence to back up your personal experiences and the information you've collected. So what do you need for your speeches? You'll need 4 to 6 sources for every speech moving forward. And you can absolutely have more. Just want to put that out there. I'm not going to take points off because you decided to do more research. You also are going to need a reference page at the end of the outline you'll be turning in, which we'll talk more about. But I want you to know right now that you are going to need a reference page, and it'll just be labeled references, and it will be located at the end of your outline. You will need citations in your outline and your speech, and there will be a few examples at the end. I don't go deep dive into it because I think that this is an area where students tend to just kind of blank out on me, but we'll talk a little bit more about it. And then I am going to be using APA style in this class. And again, I'm going to provide some resources that dive into APA style a little bit more. I do want to let you know that I'm not going to be super picky. I'm not going to pick over every period and comma if you accidentally have a period instead of a comma or things like that. But I do want to see that you did follow APA style guidelines, or you made a very strong attempt to, and that is the guidelines that you are following. I don't want to just see that you slapped something together with a couple of website addresses and book titles at the end of your outline. I want to make sure and see that you did put forth the effort, and this is included in your overall speech grade. So the book recommends that you create a research plan, which is always a really good idea when you're moving forward on an assignment, but especially in this class. And the first thing that you're going to need to do is decide what you need. So what you need is a topic. So once you have your topic, you can put together your research plan. This is something that you'll also have to have turned into me by the end of this week. So again, a really good reason to get thinking about it and started on it, and then to move forward with a research plan. Let your topic guide your sources. Don't think, wow, I watched this really cool video on skateboarding, so now I want to let that guide me. Again, think about what you actually want to talk about, and then let that guide where your sources are. Identify your key terms, which are typically going to end up being your main points. So think about what your main points are going to be, which is something I'll talk about a little bit more in the informative speech lecture, and I've talked about in other video lectures as well. And those are going to probably guide what your key terms will be when you are searching on the internet or in the library or through book materials. Also, just make time for this. A lot of people think that they can just, oh, I've got Google available, so I can do this really quickly, no big deal. But doing good research takes actually a lot of time. So make sure that you're setting aside some time every week, even if it's just setting aside 30 minutes a night. That's a small chunk of time, and breaking it up makes it a lot easier on people. And you're making time for it, so you're not scrambling at the end and getting bad sources. Use the library. I know it sounds like again, really silly, simple, but it's a really good tool. Libraries are there for a reason. You have access to online journals and online databases and textbooks and really well-written books. So use your library and use your librarians. As a former student, it was really helpful to just go to a librarian to ask them to help me research a topic, because they help you do a lot of the work. And that is a reason why people get degrees in library science, so that they can do these types of things with you. So utilize the libraries you have access to. Keep a list in sight as you go. This is something that I could have been much better at when I was getting my degrees. Make sure that you're just keeping a list of everything you're doing while you're researching, while you have Google up, while you're going through the internet. have a Microsoft Word document open right next to you and just be copy and pasting things in there. That way, when you do go to put together your reference list, it is much easier for you. And then probably the hardest part of this entire research plan is critically evaluating your sources. When you're trying to get stuff done, when you're in a time crunch, you might not always think about critically evaluating your sources and what you're reading, but you really need to understand where your material comes from. And that's something that we'll talk about that will come up several times in this course and in this lecture and in other lectures, is just being a critical thinker, because you want to make sure that your sources are not biased and they're putting the information out there with good reasons in mind. And I think that's a really important thing to think about, especially in 2018. So I put a list together. The book has, wow, another slide on thinking critically. This is such an important aspect of this. You all, I know, can get on computers and you can research things and you can think about things. But what I really, really want to get across in this specific video is that you need to be a critical thinker to be a good researcher. The book has a lovely little acronym to test out and enhance your critical thinking skills, which is MAP. So the M in MAP stands for message. You want to rate the message from your content source. Is it biased? Is the language loaded? Is it up to date and accurate? You don't want to be using something that's from 1998. And honestly, if that's the latest information available, you might want to reevaluate the topic you've chosen. The A stands for author. Learn about who the author is. Check out their about page and where their funding comes from. You'd be surprised at how many places with professional names are actually funded by a very specific group with a specific agenda. It also breaks down the author into 3 different types of sources, which I want to discuss briefly, which are primary sources, which a primary source would be a source that is directly involved in the content. So for example, you might be doing a speech on the Appalachian Trail. If you decided to use the book Into the Woods, that is a famous book that was written by a man who walked the entire trail. So that would be considered a primary source because that author has lived there, done it, and can provide firsthand accounts of the Appalachian Trail. A secondary source is something that is created, it's a content source that's created as a reaction to an event that's occurring. So an example might be that if you were doing a speech teaching us about the planet Saturn, and you found a textbook about planets that's written by a professor who studies astronomy, that material would be considered a secondary source because that author hasn't been to Saturn. They've just studied it from afar and they've gathered other pieces of information, pieced it together, and wrote a textbook about it. And then there are tertiary sources, which a tertiary, that's a difficult word to say sometimes, that source takes the information provided by a primary and secondary source and they condense it into a collection of information. So that's the encyclopedia or Wikipedia or the dictionary. And the last thing in MAP, the P in MAP, is purpose. So what is the purpose of this source? Your speech is to inform, so your source should be putting together that information with a similar purpose to you. They should be putting information out there because they want to inform, not because they want to persuade. Can't talk tonight. Your sources should be based in fact. Okay, so now I'm getting to the super fun stuff, citations. First, we're all adults here, so I'm not going to go over every last comma and how to cite. These are some very brief, I was kind of looking over APA style and citations and thinking about, what does it look like and how to present it to you in lecture. And so I did want to put a couple of examples on here. This is how you would cite an online newspaper article because that might be something you're actually using. And the very first bullet is how you would cite it on that reference list. And then the second bullet is how you might cite that in your speech. You're not going to go over every tiny little detail because we don't need to know when you retrieved that information. And we might not need to know those specifics of the exact date, month, the day, and the year. but it is good for your audience to know, according to a 2018 Washington Post article about urban gardening, and then you would go into the fact that you're presenting. I also thought, some people might use a YouTube video. So here is an example of how that would be presented. And then again, in your speech, you're not going to give every tiny detail. You're not going to say in a 2016 episode on www.youtube.com/abc/2016/YZ/NBC News, but saying, it happened in 2016 is important. It was on NBC is the actual source that you're using. They're the ones that presented that material. And then say it's a video about a professor saying something that enhances your speech and enhances your credibility. So again, I didn't really want to go over this. I feel like every single time I've taught this in class, students tend to glaze over because they know that they can Google this information and it's provided to them. I think the important point is hitting it in your speeches. I will be listening for them to make sure that I know you're citing within your speech. That's something that I always do little tally marks on my sheet while I'm listening to your speech to know that I've heard those 4 to 6 sources within it. And so that is the area where you'll want to be thinking about. That's something that I would recommend putting on your speaking notes when you actually go to give your speech. I always recommend students do the introductions, their transitions, their citations, and then their conclusions. And the area that you really want to be focused on memorizing and thinking about is the main points. And so if you have questions about this, if you want more details, if you want me to check, if you're thinking this is how I'm going to do it in my speech, please do reach out to me, because again, this is an area that there's so many ways to cite so many different things. I will make sure that I connect you all with the OWL Purdue website so you can look up how to cite specific things, and I'm always going to be here to answer questions on those as well. But again, it's kind of boring, it's kind of dry. People tend to glaze over it because they know that they can Google it. So I just want to reiterate, if you have questions about research or you need assistance, do please let me know. I'm always happy to review a source for you, your source page before you submit it, or answer any general life questions. Don't forget to listen to the next lecture on informative speeches for more information, and have a great day.